Republican State Representative Brian Harrison of Waxahachie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it as always.
Jack, it's always great to be with you.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you about the Texas House General Investigating Committee, which met yesterday for 3 hours, and investigators for the committee laid out allegations of misconduct against the Attorney General, Ken Paxton. What did you make of those?
Well, look, the criminal justice system is in place in the state of Texas to serve a purpose, and that's to adjudicate claims like this. And the Attorney General has been, running that process in the criminal justice system for a long time now. Look, some of the allegations, of course, are concerning to me. But I think the biggest takeaway that I've got right now is I want to make sure that we are not doing something that, freedom-loving states like Texas or republics like here in the United States of America that we're not doing, which is using the levers of power to politicize political opposition. I don't know all of the facts, but that's the thing that I'm the most concerned about right now is any potential that levers of power or our criminal justice system is being weaponized against somebody for political purposes. I hope that's not what's going on here.
And did you have a chance to watch some of the hearing yesterday?
Some of it. I have not watched the full 3 hours yet.
And have you discussed this with other members of the legislature, and what are they saying, if so?
It's certainly a topic of discussion, but what I'm focused on in the final days here and what a lot of the conservatives that I'm working with down here are focused on are delivering conservative victories that our voters demand, that Texas taxpayers deserve, and quite frankly, there's a list of things that we still haven't quite gotten to yet. So that's where my focus is right now.
I did want to talk to you about that, but I just had a couple other questions.
Sure.
This whole investigation into General Paxton started when he requested that Texas taxpayers foot the bill for this $3.3 million settlement for the whistleblower lawsuit filed against his office. Should Texas taxpayers have to pay that?
Well, one of the most important responsibilities we have as lawmakers is that as of a fiduciary for our constituents. So I'm obviously very concerned about every expenditure of money. And quite frankly, though, what I'm going to say about this is $3 million is absolutely a lot of money. But I wish that we were spending as much time and with as much focus and intensity on every other $3 million and up line item in the budget of the state of Texas. And this budget's the biggest that we've ever had. Meanwhile, families, their incomes are going down, their inflation is eating up at their savings. And I wish that we had the same focus and concern on every other penny that we were spending here in the state of Texas. And that unfortunately hasn't happened this session. So yes, while every expenditure should be scrutinized, and I'm very concerned about taxpayers being on the hook in this instance, I am more concerned about all of the other expenditures, sometimes these bills with billion-dollar-plus price tags that, quite frankly, nobody bats an eye at around down here. We need to spend as much or more attention on those type of expenditures, and that's what I'm working on.
How concerned are you that there could be articles of impeachment brought against the Attorney General?
Well, I haven't yet officially been notified that we're going to be asked to do that. But I will tell you, in the remaining days of session, what I would be far more concerned about are the things that my voters sent us here to do things that we quite frankly have not done yet, like secure the border, like get us on a path to property tax elimination. Those are the types of banning COVID vaccine mandates. The Texas legislature has failed to do that. I would be far more interested in getting those types of protections of individual liberty and freedom than I am about something that may or may not be being done right now for political purposes.
And then before I do want to talk to you about all that, but I did want to ask one other question about this week and how the session has come to an end. And that is the accusations by General Paxton against House Speaker Dave Phelan that he was drunk while he presided over the House last Friday night. As you know, there's been a video clip circulating on social media of that. What's your reaction?
Well, I obviously do not have firsthand knowledge to what was going on there with the speaker. And I'm unaware of any statement that he or his team have put out about that, although from what it's worth, I think it would be helpful if they did release a statement on what was going on. What was happening on the floor of the Texas House, that's where my attention was. That's where my focus was, because that video was taken at one of the most consequential moments of the legislative session when we were trying to figure out how to ban DEI from taxpayer-funded public universities in the state of Texas. The Senate had sent over a robust bill banning DEI, and unfortunately, the Texas House had just gutted that bill, and in fact gone the other way by writing in perhaps permanent job security for DEI faculty and staff in the state of Texas. So myself and a handful of other conservatives were working feverishly to try and reinsert the intent of that bill, so that when we say we ban DEI in Texas, we actually were banning DEI and not in fact protecting DEI faculty and staff. So that is exactly what was going on at the moment. So that video was taken. That's what I was working on. That was my focus. And as of yet, we still haven't done it. But that's what was going on, at least from my perspective, when that was taken.
How do you think that's going to shake out? Because the Senate's going to have to decide whether to go along with those House amendments.
Yeah, and I hope the Senate holds the line and stands strong and does what 30 million Texans want. Right now, when Texans are having a hard time putting food on the table and gas in the tank or paying their property tax bills, they want to know that their taxpayer dollars, their hard-earned money, is not being spent to promote this cancerous DEI on college campuses. And I guarantee you, there's not one Texan that would support permanent job security for these highly paid DEI faculty and staff that are pushing this cancerous ideology into institutions all across the state of Texas. We must do that. And I hope in the conference committee, the Senate stands strong and allows us to pass a bill that permanently bans DEI here in the great state of Texas.
Well, what do you say to those who say diversity is important and that there needs to be this so that people of all backgrounds have a fair shot?
Well, it sounds profound, to say diversity is important, but it's axiomatically true. Of course, diversity is important. Diversity exists whether we have taxpayer money promoting racist ideology or not. And in fact, we have data from Texas A&M that their diversity programs have in fact backfired after spending millions and millions of dollars promoting this ideology and these policies, which, by the way, are in fact racist, because they do the exact antithesis of what Dr. Martin Luther King said, which is we are focusing on people's skin color instead of the content of their character. And we now know, after years of data from Texas A&M, that African Americans on campus actually feel less a part of the campus community than they did before we were spending millions of dollars on these racist policies. So I'm tired of the platitudes that sound great, but they just sound great and they only function as a cover to put taxpayer-funded racism into our universities. And I will do everything in my power to end that.
You brought up property tax reform, and the House and the Senate have been on different tracks on this, but the House last week passed an updated version that does both of what the House and the Senate have asked for. So it would be lowering the cap from 10 to 5% on taxable value of properties, not just residential, but of all properties. And then it would boost the homestead exemption to even more than what the Senate called for. So where are you on this bill, and how confident are you that something's going to get done?
Well, I do think something's going to get done. The question is it as good and as big and as robust as our taxpayers deserve? Look, I voted for that bill, and I'll vote for either package that makes its way to my desk, because my constituents are suffering. I mean, literally, the Texans who have been responsible, they have paid off their mortgages. They are being taxed out of their homes all across the state of Texas, even sometimes properties that have been in their family for generations. So I'll support either of these bills, but I'll be very honest and candid. Neither of them go as far as I think we should be going. I think that state legislature in the state of Texas needs to do the right thing and put us on a path to finally eliminate this unethical property tax system that precludes any homeowner from ever truly owning their home. I want more focus on the tax rate side. I want tax rates going down to as close to zero, if not zero, as we possibly can get it. We can do it, but we need bold leadership. And we're not even breaking the spending cap, because we call tax cuts government spending. Only in government, by the way, is a tax cut a spending increase. That kind of insanity needs to be pushed to the side. We need to spend every penny that we have remaining that's unallocated of that surplus and throw it towards getting our property tax rates down as close to zero as possible. I filed a bill to do that. I filed a constitutional amendment to do that, because property taxes are inconsistent with private property rights. They're unethical. And I look forward to the day that they are in the rearview mirror in the state of Texas.
You brought up COVID and vaccine mandates, and I know there was a Senate bill that was a priority, Senate Bill 29, that passed in both the House and the Senate, but it stopped short, right, of as far as banning vaccine mandates for private businesses. Is that right? So
yeah, there only was one bill filed this entire legislative session that would have comprehensively banned COVID mandates in the state of Texas. And it was a bill that I authored and introduced over a year and a half ago called the Texas COVID Vaccine Freedom Act. Again, the only bill that would end a single COVID vaccine mandate that is intact today. SB 29 is a fine bill, but it doesn't turn off one single mandate that exists today. And that's unfortunate. The Texas COVID Vaccine Freedom Act, I partnered with Senator Mays Middleton, who was successful in getting that through the Texas Senate expeditiously. And unfortunately, it was sent over here to the Texas House to do something that our constituents demand and deserve, and that's to protect their medical freedom, their medical liberty, to prevent Texans from being fired if they don't accept a COVID vaccine that maybe they don't need, that maybe could be harmful for them. But the Texas House leadership chose to not even allow that bill to be debated on the floor of the House. The Texas House made the conscious decision to protect COVID vaccine mandates in the state of Texas, possibly forever, and to continue allowing Texans to be fired if they are not forcibly vaccinated against COVID-19. It's indefensible. Medical liberty is a line in the sand issue. If you actually believe in liberty, I don't think you can have freedom if you don't have medical freedom. And so if we get through this session and in fact do not pass the Texas COVID Vaccine Freedom Act, which again, it's too late. They wouldn't even put it on the floor for debate. Then I think the governor should do the right thing and bring us back for a special session so that we can actually protect medical freedom for 30 million Texans.
I was going to ask you about that because that was one of his emergency items.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, have you had conversations with his office about this? Because Senate Bill 29, at least my understanding was, doesn't allow government entities to require vaccine mandates, right? So
that's correct. Senate Bill 29, while it's fine and I happily voted for it, there is not one COVID vaccine or any other COVID mandate that exists in the state of Texas today that bill will deal with. It's just true. It's just on government mandates, which don't exist in Texas. So what I hope is not the case, is that we take Senate Bill 29 and then just declare victory and say that we got rid of COVID mandates in the state of Texas, because that is not true. You can go on countless employers' websites right now. You can go to CBS's website right now. And if you're in Texas, they brag about it on their website. You get a vaccine or you get fired. And you know, that's the kind of medical freedom or the attacks on medical freedom, these tyrannical COVID vaccine mandates that the Texas COVID vaccine mandate would have solved for Texans. But unfortunately, Texas House leadership chose to protect COVID vaccine mandates.
Last question. I know we're going a little long, but school choice. How do you think this is going to shake out?
Well, you're perhaps ending with what could be arguably the most important issue that we have also so far failed on. I believe that education freedom, just like medical freedom, I believe in all the freedoms, okay? Education freedom, I think, is the civil rights era of our time. We right now in the state of Texas have an education system that is failing too many students, and especially too many disenfranchised students, people with low socioeconomic standings, the poor. They are trapped in schools that are not educating them. Right now in the state of Texas, Jack, a lot of people don't know this. Only 24% of Texas eighth graders can read on grade level. Only 28% or 24% of Texas eighth graders can do math at grade level. We are failing a generation of children. And what do we say to like the single working mother in a place like Austin ISD, where not even 20% of their kids are fully proficient, who wants nothing more than for their child to have the one thing that may be the most important variable for that kid's success, and that's a quality education. If we force her to stay trapped in a system that is not teaching them English and mathematics, but is spending her tax dollars to bring in drag queens for drag queen library hours and Pride Week, no. We can do better. We must do better. We must finally put parents in control of their children's education. One-size-fits-all government solutions never work best for everybody. The public schools are going to be improved by this, by having to actually compete for education outcomes. Let's put parents in the driver's seat. Let them put their child in the school that is best suited for the individual needs of their particular and unique child. And that way we can do the single most important thing for the next generation and guarantee every child in the state of Texas a quality of education. So if we continue to fail on getting that done in the regular session, which looks likely, I hope the governor keeps his word and calls us back. I don't care if we have to be here until the next session in 2025, if that's what it takes to give every family education freedom so that every student can receive a quality education.
Republican State Representative Brian Harrison of Waxahachie, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Always great to be with you, Jack.
Likewise. Thank you.